Oh man, I spent the whole doggone episode. Oh man, thanks for saying something, y'all. All right. Well, I'm gonna do this whole episode from the top, y'all. How about that? Since somehow in there I have been, yeah, I'm gonna do this whole episode. Y'all want me to do this whole episode completely over? Let me know in the comments. Sorry about that. Whoo, man. All right, so we're gonna do this again. Y'all stay with me, okay? I just gotta make an adjustment really quick. What's up, cannabis community? I'm back. I'm Brent Green, and this is your Cannabis News Prime Live. Okay. Now, I had to redo this. Apparently, my mic was muted. So shout out to the guy, man, 420. Shout out to you, man. Shout out to everybody out there on Twitch, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all of that. Okay. Now, today is the eve of the holiday eve, and of course, it's still our first year of the pandemic. So, are you all still stuffed, or are you already stuffed from a bountiful holiday? Be sure to share and like this, as it's kind of hard for us to do this alone. Speaking of alone, if you're alone this holiday, I thank you for being responsible and caring about others. Alrighty, so before we get started, be sure to like and share this, and also don't forget to follow us on Twitch, the OG Green Scene TV. Okay, so how's it going out there, y'all? You got the winter blues already, or are you pushing through? For those of you in the South, our first story is for you. Just give me a second here. Make this adjustment. Alrighty, y'all. So as you can see here, it says Mexico will legalize the world's largest legal cannabis market. Now, y'all keep in mind this, and of course, this article comes courtesy of Forbes. But keep in mind, this article is it's like a month old or something. So it says here, the United States will soon be sandwiched between two nations with federally legalized, in quotes, marijuana. This comes on the heels of Canada's historic legalization several years ago, which has created a viable international market, channeling funds through the Canadian markets and effectively mobilizing the global cannabis industry. Now, when cannabis legalized, the U.S. missed an opportunity to ensure that NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange would have a role in controlling the financial markets and dollars funneling into cannabis. This was expected since Jeff Sessions was in control of the Department of Justice. Now, at first you might think none of this matters, as the U.S. has legalized adult use, in quotes, marijuana programs state by state, while this dispensary models still violate federal law. It has garnered bipartisan support from American politicians to prevent the Department of Justice from interfering with legal state, in quotes, marijuana businesses. But the issue is much larger. We're talking about a global cannabis economy, with Mexico as the largest country in the world by population to legalize, in quotes, marijuana. Mexico will boast the biggest consumer market for cannabis products, with a population of more than 125 million people, representing an enormous leap forward for the developing international cannabis marketplace. Y'all, hold up. Now, did you all catch that? They are poised to be a global leader in the cannabis market. And as always, I have to say, the longer we Americans fail to cover this nationally, the further we are going to be held back on this subject. Like a stoner in a hater state, as it stunts your stoner growth. You know what I mean? Now, but then Mexico followed all this fanfare up with this. Check it out. Now, it says Mexico hits the snooze button on cannabis legalization until next spring. The Supreme Court of Mexico has again extended the deadline for legislators to comply with a mandate to legalize adult use cannabis. The Senate approved the, in quotes, marijuana legalization bill in November, sending it to the lower house. However, upcoming elections may weigh on the timing. The 500 seats of the Chamber of Deputies will be up for election in June. That not only could distract lower house legislators, but it also means some deputies will want to avoid the risk of supporting controversial issues. And according to a poll published by the Center for Social Studies and Public Opinion in May 2020, a clear majority of Mexicans were against recreational cannabis legalization. Wow. The new 2021 target for legislators to comply with the mandate is the third extension since the original October 2019 deadline. The target was extended to April 2020 and then to December 2020, since the first extension was supposed to be exceptional and a one-time only. The delay served as a reminder that without first having a regulatory framework in place, market projections are largely meaningless. Yeah, y'all. Now, I mean, I think those parting words says it all, right? Now, our next story comes courtesy of marijuana moment, in quotes, marijuanamoment.net. Okay, and it has to do with our friends Oh wait, I'm sorry, excuse me. So our next story comes courtesy of, in quotes, marijuanamoment.net. The MJ gets quotes as always. Now, this kind of breaks me off to a little question. Why would I buy marijuana when I can go down the street and purchase cannabis cheaper and cleaner? But I digress to the national cannabis for progress here in the States. Okay, now, according to the Denver Post, as you can see here, the headline says, and this is an older article as well, friends. In quotes, marijuana delivery and cannabis bars gain traction in Denver. The city unveiled new bills to overhaul the industry and get more people of color involved. Way to go. Next year, Denverites may be able to have, in quotes, marijuana delivered to their homes if the city council adopts a new proposal to regulate delivery services. On Monday, the Division of Excise and Licenses unveiled drafts of 3 bills intended to overhaul the local industry and enable more people of color to cash in on a still booming industry. One, the Omnibus bill outlines the framework to launch, in quotes, marijuana delivery within city limits. The other 2 set the stage for Denver's hospitality program, which would allow for the opening of businesses where enthusiasts could publicly smoke, eat, vape, or otherwise consume cannabis. Excuse me. One of the bills also removes the cap on how many dispensaries and cultivations may be established in the city, opening up the possibility for new locations for the first time since 2016. All 3 bills were crafted through the lens of social equity, said Sarah Woodson, executive director of the Color of Cannabis, an advocacy organization empowering people of color to get into the, in quotes, marijuana industry. Transporter licenses required for those looking to do home delivery will only be available to those who qualify as social equity applicants for the first 6 years they're available, as would dispensary and cultivation licenses. Existing dispensaries will be required to contract with a third party for the first 3 years if they want to do home delivery and are eligible to do it in-house thereafter. Exclusivity here is extremely important simply because the market's already saturated, so it gives social equity applicants a real fighting chance to start a business and to possibly scale, Woodson said. Now, California defines a social equity applicant as someone who has been arrested or convicted of a, in quotes, marijuana offense, or has a relative who has been arrested or convicted, someone who has experienced asset forfeiture due to a cannabis-related investigation, someone who has lived in an economic opportunity zone for at least 15 years between 1980 and 2020, or someone whose household income falls 50% low or below the state median. These licensees would also receive a discount on permit fees and renewals. So yeah, shout out to Denver for coming correct right there. You know what I mean? And shout out to y'all out there for sticking around while I do this broadcast completely over. Anyway, so let's see here. So this actually, so that bill that I was just talking about, it passed yesterday. Yeah, it passed just yesterday. So let's give that a little look-see. What do you know? Serendipity. Now, so as you can see here, it says cannabis in Colorado. Aurora approves a plan to allow, in quotes, marijuana delivery. Now, the Aurora City Council approved a proposal to allow, in quotes, marijuana delivery in the city on a 7-3 vote Monday night. The program will include a grant program and 36-month exclusivity period for transporters that qualify as social equity licensees under the state's definitions. If approved, businesses and transporters may be able to start applying for licensing in January, officials say. Deliveries will be GPS tracked and transactions must be video recorded. There will also be limits on how much cannabis can be delivered to each customer per day. Again, shout out to the Denver Metro for doing something. I mean, it only took y'all 7 years, to do something. And now that the market is saturated, it's undeniable, right? Alrighty, y'all. So our next story comes courtesy of the Canna Chronicle, and it has to do with something coming down the stoner pipeline to add to our stoner woes, as if we didn't have enough stoner woes as it is, right? Okay. Hold on one second. So as you can see here, the headline says many cannabis companies are fighting to keep homegrown cannabis illegal. Y'all, sit with this. The very companies that we have been supporting during the pandemic, they don't want us to grow cannabis. They want us to be dependent on them. Anyways, I'll digress back to this article. So shouldn't homegrown cannabis be legal? This is the question facing today's consumers of cannabis and cannabis-based products. Whether it be for personal or medicinal use, with the incremental rise in the number of states making it legal to grow relatively small amounts for personal consumption, the number of closet grow rooms is going to increase, and not just in states where there are no legal statutes prohibiting personal cultivation. There are currently only 12 U.S. states where it is legal to grow and possess limited amounts of flower, and 16 states and Puerto Rico that have legalized medical cannabis but still prohibit home grows. Okay, I'm going to skip down to this paragraph here. In the states that currently allow home grow, however, the number of plants one is allowed to possess is arbitrary and depends solely on the number that was input into the bill before it was passed in any particular state. In Montana, for instance, a medical cannabis patient may only possess 4 mature plants and 4 seedlings, whereas in Rhode Island that number is 12 adult plants and 12 seedlings. It is also important to note that these numbers will change as new laws are introduced, and the current possibility of the federal government decriminalizing cannabis will change the way state lawmakers approach this subject. Okay, members of the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission have often stated that the number of plants could be determined by the needs of the patient or the recommendation of the prescribing physician in each case. To date, that parameter for determining how many plants any one person can possess is not being used in current legislation, but may be reconsidered by state governments once federal prohibition is eliminated. In Massachusetts, where the commission resides, a qualified medical patient may legally have up to 6 mature plants per person and 12 per household. If there is another qualified patient residing in the same dwelling. So there has been some controversies concerning corporate influence in states like New York and New Jersey, where medical cannabis is legal, but cultivation by non-licensed individuals is banned. Consider the now infamous 29-page memo sent to Governor Cuomo's office by the New York Medical Cannabis Industry Association. The organization's current board includes leadership from the state limited dispensary license holders in New York. Are y'all getting that right? The memo detailed their opinion as to what future cannabis legislative policy should look like. And one of their main recommendations was to ban home grow in the state. And the reasons they give are typical of big business attempting to increase revenue. They have concerns about black market sales, poor quality products, and loss of revenue by the state. The website touts the statement the New York Medical Cannabis Industry Association is dedicated to protect and serve the interests of medical cannabis patients while engaging with policymakers to establish a responsible and inclusive adult use cannabis program. Y'all, this is wild. This is what our industry is coming to. This is what they doing to our industry. Now, this brings to mind something I've had to really accept. Now, did any of us in turn, when it comes to legalization, did we think the industry wouldn't go the way of any other industry? I mean, it is capitalism. Of course, the push is about your dependents and their profits. It's just how it is. So I feel like the cannabis industry, you know, we really have to step it up. We really have to step it up to guard ourselves against things like this happening in our industry. They already did it to us once with Prop 64. And it's only a matter of time before we put our minds together and our votes and things together to repeal Prop 64. But again, I digress, okay? So our next story comes courtesy of MJ Biz Daily, and it's a shout out to Oklahoma, a historically hater state working its way towards redemption. But here's a very interesting stat. Now, as you can see here, it says Oklahoma leads the nation in quotes marijuana cultivation licenses issued in 2020. As you can see here, California issued 2,304 licenses this year, Oregon 106, Washington 66, Montana 10, Arizona 1, Minnesota 2, Michigan 333. And then you look down here at Oklahoma, 2,392 licenses issued this year. More licenses were issued in August than in any other month in 2020. So I'm going to read over this article a little bit here. Now, while California is widely touted as the largest legal cannabis market in the world, analysis of cultivation license data from Cannabis media shows that Oklahoma narrowly surpassed the West Coast state in issuing commercial growing permits this year. Oklahoma's Medical Marijuana Authority issued 2,392 new permits through November 2020, outpacing California by 88 licenses. Okay, so Michigan didn't come close to Oklahoma and California numbers, but the Midwest states' 333 new licenses was a 38% increase in total active licenses there, and placed it sixth in a very top-heavy list for total active cultivation licenses. 5 states, Oklahoma, California, Oregon, Colorado, and Washington, in rank order, combined for 89% of the total active cultivation licenses held by, in quotes, marijuana businesses in the United States, excuse me. That means that all other legal markets in the country account for only 10% of permits, led by Michigan's 493 active growing licenses. License fees can be a boon for strained state budgets. Oklahoma added $6 million to its state coffers through cultivation licenses alone. As of November 7th, the state collected $25 million from all commercial cannabis license, double what Oklahoma collected in 2019. Yeah, y'all heard that. Y'all caught that. Now, like I said, this is what it looks like when your state isn't blown out market-wise and the populace is eager to have stoner money. Again, shout out to Oklahoma for the progress. But at the same time, you know, from a journalistic perspective and being a person of color, and knowing that Oklahoma has the most black people incarcerated than any other state in the nation, you all still have a lot of work to go. Still have a lot of, you know, things, a lot of progress to make happen. But we commend you for the progress that you've made so far. Also, a big shout out to our homies over at Spring Farms. Be sure to go check them out if you're out there in Oklahoma. Okay. So our next story comes courtesy of mmjdaily.com. Now, and this has to do with a growing issue in the cultivation sector of the cannabis industry. Yes, folks, it's a growing cannabis plant illness. Yeah, I said that. I said it's kind of a tongue twister, but I said it. Okay. Okay, so this Giving Tree Farms experience, this is about their experience with fighting the hop latent viroid. And I'll just get to the second paragraph here. We had just transplanted our young plants into pots, and they were vibrant and green, growing as they should be while working toward maturity. But 3 weeks in, something odd occurred. We noticed a few of the rows weren't growing at the same rate as the others. Most were taller, maturing quickly, and growing with certainty and purpose. But a couple of rows were shorter, and the leaves configuration was strange, resembling a duck's foot resembling a duck's foot with how tightly close together the leaflets sat. Because something unusual was occurring, we evaluated how these plants were being cared for, of course, as any gardener would do, right? So I'm going to scroll down here to the next paragraph. So what on earth was going on? The hop latent virus, the hop latent viroid, originates from hop plants, but is asymptomatic when present. Cannabis, being genetically related to hops, was able to contract this viroid, and unfortunately the cannabis plant expresses symptoms that significantly impact its growth, quality, and rate. Signs of the viroid in the cannabis plant can be seen as stunted growth, brittle stems, less flower mass, lower trichome development, slow to no root growth, and yellowing leaves. The symptoms can be all over the place and sometimes won't boldly display until they are well into their cultivation cycle or are introduced into environmental stressors. Yeah, y'all. It's always something out there. Now, this brings to mind CHS. Although one affects plants and the other affects humans, it brings to mind how once underground markets come to light, so to speak, and becomes industrialized. I mean, what did we expect? Really? I mean, not everyone is cleaning their scissors the same. Not everyone is, using sterilized tools in general, so on and so forth. So yes, that's how it goes. If you're experiencing that, I hope, I really wish you well. Now, okay, folks, that's it for today. Let's see what's going on out there in the world. Okay, y'all, so that's it for today. I hope you all have a great holiday alone now. Be sure to tune in to The Green Scene on Fridays for Freeform Friday with my very old friend John Durbin. That's going on Twitch. And again, like I said at the beginning of the broadcast, be sure to follow us over there at The Green Scene TV, the OG Green Scene TV, excuse me, because somebody stole my name. Anyways, y'all, I'm Brent Green, and this has been your Cannabis News Prime Live. See you on Friday.
Stay tuned.